Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from ejsllc.com. Well, if you've been around IT news any in the last couple months, you know that IBM, or RedHat, which really is IBM since it owns RedHat, has killed the CentOS project as we know it. Now, there is still CentOS Stream, but the idea of having this rebuild of RHEL that's downstream from RHEL is no longer going to be a thing. As of, I think, December 2021 is when the support for CentOS ends, and of course there aren't going to be any releases of that downstream CentOS after that. So you can find a variety of videos and such about this. What some talk about what this means for the community, and others talk about what it means for the future of IBM and Red Hat, and whether or not IBM really is invested in Red Hat, and on and on and on. But the video that I want to present you today is from the perspective of the student, as far as if you are currently pursuing Red Hat certification, or if you're thinking of pursuing Red Hat certification, whether or not it still makes sense to do so. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as want to invite everyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, to make sure you click that subscribe button. And also, if you enjoy the content of the video, make sure that you click like as well. So with the turmoil that is surrounding IBM and Red Hat in the future and all that kind of stuff, the question becomes whether or not it's worth it to pursue certification with Red Hat. And I would say at this time in February 2021, the answer to that question is yes, because with certifications, my opinion of how to approach them is you're chasing the skill. And once you have learned the skill, you take the certification, and if you earn the cert at the end, that's your icing on the cake. You get your piece of paper, which, well, really now is not a piece of paper. It's more of like, here's your little certificate ID. People can look up with the certification authority whether or not you actually have earned the cert. But the skills that you learn en route to taking the certification exam and ultimately earning the certification is what benefits you for your own career. So for Red Hat, if the company were to vanish tomorrow, and really I guess that's not the greatest of an argument, because if the company vanished, obviously the cert would vanish with it. But just for the sake of argument, the topics and such that would be for rhcsa and rhce, beyond that I'm not sure. I haven't delved into the other exams for Red Hat, but those two particular exams would still be relevant. For rhcsa, with the exception of Stratus and Yum and DNF package managers, pretty much everything else on that exam is applicable to any Linux system. Being able to do basic bash scripting, being able to create file systems, be able to work with LVM, knowing what input-output redirection is. Things like that are not specific Red Hat technologies. And so even if you have an rhcsa, you've just earned your certification, the next day Red Hat vanishes, could you get a job, working in an Ubuntu shop? I would imagine the answer is yes, because you have some basic Linux skills if you've properly prepared for the exams. And on the rhce side, that's what I'm pursuing now. The being able to work with Ansible is not just a thing for Red Hat. Now, Red Hat does own Ansible, and if you're working in the CentOS Red Hat environment, you're probably going to be using it. But there is nothing that prevents you from being able to use that outside of a Red Hat environment. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with this, and so I may be totally wrong. If you have experience working in Ubuntu shops and want to chime in on the comments, tell me how wrong I am, by all means. But I know that Ansible, since it primarily runs off of, it runs over SSH, there's no requirement that says you must have Red Hat Enterprise Linux to be able to use Ansible. But if there is, correct me. I don't think that's the case though. But regardless, the skills that you would get from that certification, I think are useful. The other thing that I believe is useful for it is the fact that both rhcsa and rhce are hands-on exams. It's not just multiple guess questions. And the multiple guess exams aren't necessarily bad, but you have to actually know how to work with the concepts to be able to pass the exam. And so while there is some turmoil and questioning of what's going on with IBM and Red Hat and all that kind of stuff from the certification perspective, from the student perspective, I think pursuing those certifications is still worthwhile, because the skills that you would learn from the certifications, I believe, are still relevant. So as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I want to thank returning subscribers for coming back, and I want to invite everyone that if you enjoy the content of the video, make sure that you click like. And if you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do click that subscribe button and ring the bell so you can be notified of when new videos come out. Feel free to leave comments on this subject. I'm curious to hear what you think as far as, with the killing of CentOS and some of the questions surrounding RedHat, if you think the certs are still useful. I do, obviously, because I'm studying for it and I kind of give you my reason for it. But if you have other ideas, feel free to put those in the comments. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.